Hello, I'm Alma Angeles and you're watching Asean in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila in Thailand. Hello, Gila.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon and good afternoon to all our viewers. I'm Gila Pablo bringing you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. President Duterte said business owners profiteering from consumer goods in the aftermath of Typhoon Odette may be arrested.
You know that it is.
Malaysia's government was under fire Monday as presidents accused it of responding too slowly after the country's worst floods in years.
And a Philippine health official on Monday reported that a fourth case of the Omicron coronavirus variant has been detected in the country.
United States of America.
Correct.
Any comment, Mr. Chi?
A Myanmar junta court on Monday again postponed giving its verdict in Aung San Suu Kyi's trial for illegally importing and possessing.
First, here in the country, President Duterte said business owners profiteering from consumer goods in the aftermath of Typhoon Odette may be arrested. In his pre-recorded talk to the people on Monday night, the president threatened to order the arrest of business owners involved in the overpricing of basic goods and construction supplies in areas hit by the typhoon. Let's listen in.
There seems to be a spike in the prices. They say that some, not all, are hoarding, and you know that it is. You increase the price by selling more than the usual. If there has been a violation or violations during this time, because they can identify them, and the Philippine National Police, we will ask them to arrest the hoarders.
Tama ho, Mr. President, kasama ho sa report natin, i-advance ko lang yung part na yon na una-una, nung mga nag-declare ng state of calamity, nag-umpisa na yung ating price cap. That day after, I think mga hanggang 2 days after, habang nagkakagulo pa rin, marami ho talagang na-report na nag-price increase, na nagsamantala. Yung mga enforcers natin ay talagang mag-aresto ng overpricing. Actually, marami ho talaga diyang na-apprehend ay dyan po sa area ng Bohol at Cebu. Narbalitaan din po natin yung nagtaas ng mga genset. So lahat po nung mga nireport sa amin ay atin pong pinapuntahan. Sa ngayon po, nag-issue na ho tayo ng base sa mga nireport sa atin, mga 50 na explanation letters, 50 na inquiry letters, at yung kasunod doon ay kaso. Pagka ito po ay hindi talaga sa atin explain yung pagtaas ng presyo na yon. At after po na-apprehend sila, actually ho, Mr. President, kinokorek ho nila. No? So, after that ho, report ko lang ho na, for example, ang marami ring nag-report sa atin, yung presyo ng fuel na pinilahan, kasi right the day after, nagkaroon ng shortage. Nandun ang fuel pero hindi ka agad maipump. So talagang may ganun supply and demand, nagdoble, triple, 120 to 180 pesos per liter para lang magkaroon ng gasolina yung mga gustong bumili. After ho na reprimand, ang prices ho ngayon, like sa Asean City, Macrohon, Southern Leyte, pati sa Caraga Region, ay nagre-range na sa below 50 at saka balik na siya sa below 50 hanggang 56 pesos per liter.
On December 21, President Duterte signed Proclamation Number 1267 declaring a state of calamity in areas battered by Typhoon Odette, particularly Mimaropa or 4B, Region 4B, Western Visayas or Region 6, Central Visayas or Region 7, Eastern Visayas or Region 8, Northern Mindanao or Region 10, and Caraga, Region 13. Proclamation Number 1267 is meant to hasten the rescue, relief, and rehabilitation efforts of the government and the private private sector, including any international humanitarian assistance. The proclamation also aims to effectively control the prices of basic goods and commodities in the affected areas and afford the national government as well as local government units ample latitude to utilize appropriate funds for the rescue, recovery, relief, and rehabilitation of and the continued delivery of basic services to the affected populations.
As the government rushed to bring food, water, and clothing to devastated areas, a new threat appeared in recent days with at least 140 people falling ill from suspected contaminated water. 80 people were taken ill with acute gastroenteritis in the southern province of Dinagat Islands, while 54 people are being treated for diarrhea in hospital on the neighboring tourist island of Siargao. Let's watch this.
Our regional offices face reported 80 cases with acute gastroenteritis in Caraga and at least 70 cases with diarrhea in Cebu and Caraga. Cases in Caraga were admitted in hospitals, while report from Cebu is currently being validated by our regional epidemiology and surveillance units. To date, the Department of Health and its regional offices has mobilized around 22.05 million worth of medicines, vitamins, family food packs and hygiene kits, water containers, and other commodities. The DOH and the health cluster members have also mobilized teams to Regions 7, 8, and Caraga to conduct rapid health assessment and provide medical, wash, nutrition, mental health, and psychosocial support and emergency response services, among others.
A total of 284 cities and municipalities experienced power interruption in Mimaropa, Western Visayas, Central Visayas, Eastern Visayas, Zamboanga Peninsula, Northern Mindanao, Davao Region, Caraga, and the BARMM, while power supply has been restored in 154 cities and municipalities. Meanwhile, a total of 18 cities and municipalities experienced water supply outages and interruptions in Mimaropa, Northern Mindanao, and Caraga. Water supply has been restored in one locality so far. Also, a total of 371 cities and municipalities experienced an interruption in telecommunications services in Mimaropa, Central Visayas, Eastern Visayas, Zamboanga Peninsula, Northern Mindanao, Caraga, and the BARMM. Telecommunication services have been fully restored in 115 cities and municipalities. Also, a total of 334 cities and municipalities in Mimaropa, Western Visayas, Eastern Visayas, and Caraga are now under a state of calamity.
Staying in the country, President Duterte on Monday urged Congress or the next president to repeal a law requiring the assessment of reports on disaster areas before a state of calamity is declared. The president was possibly referring to the Republic Act 10121 or the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010. Let's listen in.
I'd like to explain to the people why we cannot declare the state of calamity kaagad. For the simple reason is there's a hindrance, a legal obstacle to just shoot from the hip right away, which dapat yun yung sitwasyon. But there is a law covering the power to declare a state of calamity so far as my office is concerned, because it must be based on the assessment and evaluation and the report of the government on the ground. Ang problema yung assessment, pati yung evaluation, or even just to declare, maghintay ng report yan before I can. These are the things that are the stupid laws passed by Congress. sila man ang final word yan sa whether it should be or it should be not. Ang kasi the critical, and everybody knows, it's 3 days. Halad is busy rescuing and retrieving patay na tao. And it behooves upon this Congress, if they want to, or the next president, may I advise, try to repeal the law so that government, there is already the warning. Hindi na kailangang assessment because the warning just too far away for us to prepare. Ano nandyan na, with so much preparation, gano'n, hindi mo mapigitan yung hangin pati tubig eh.
Typhoon Odette left widespread devastation and damages when it hit parts of Visayas and Mindanao on December 16, killing nearly 389 people and displacing over 1 million families. The president declared a state of calamity in areas battered by Typhoon Odette, particularly in Mimaropa, which is Region 4B, Western Visayas, Region 6, Central Visayas, Region 7, Eastern Visayas, Region 8, Northern Mindanao, Region 10, and Caraga, Region 13, on December 21st.
President Rodrigo Duterte expressed hope that the Communist New People's Army, or NPA, will not tinker with the government's operations to bring back normalcy in the areas ravaged by Typhoon Odette. During his pre-recorded talk to the people on Monday night, Duterte said he has been mobilizing all the government's resources to augment the disaster response and relief operations within the typhoon-hit areas, including regions 4B, Mimaropa, 6, Western Visayas, 7, Central Visayas, 8, Eastern Visayas, and Northern Mindanao, and 13, Caraga. Let's watch this.
I hope that the NPAs will not really tinker into the operation na itong response ng gobyerno. Kasi yung sa Sipalay, pagdaan namin ng Kabangkalan because ang pumaputok early is Kabangkalan. Yun ang naririnig ko. Ang pagdating kami doon, sa chapter for the initial look at the damage, ang Kabangkalan wala talaga. But a few kilometers upwards, nandoon yung lugar ng Sipalay. Pagbaha, yung mga bahay-bahay doon, little did we realize that so many people were carried away and homes were destroyed. Pero papunta namin pa, even during that day, it was only later that we were informed na sa Sipalay, maraming na-damage, pati tao. So, kayong taga Sipalay, we convey to you our deepest condolences. Lalo na yung isang pamilya, dalawang pamilya. So, it's, I said, a soul-bruising experience for us all. The only way we can do that is how fast we can go back to normalcy.
Department of the Interior and Local Government, Eduardo Anyom, in his report to the president, said the total number of affected individuals has so far reached 4,204,601. There are 1,179 evacuation centers catering to about 570,906 displaced persons. Anyo said the government is just now focusing its relief operations on 6 regions, 14 provinces, and 222 cities and municipalities hit hard by the typhoon. The disaster-related incidents have so far reached 21 flooded areas, 9 road sections and 3 bridges that remained unpassable, as well as 52 seaports and 2 airports that are still not functional. Anyo added that the government still has to restore 130 power outages, 17 water supplies, and 371 communication lines in affected areas.
Meanwhile, the death toll from one of the most destructive typhoons to hit the country in recent years rose to 389 Monday. That, according to the government, as disease outbreaks threatened some of the stricken areas. Typhoon Rai struck the south and center of the Asian nation on December 16 and 17, toppling power lines and trees and unleashing deadly floods that also left hundreds of thousands homeless. The Civil Defense Office in Manila raised the death toll from Rai to 388, with 60 others missing and hundreds injured. Police previously put the death toll at 375. Civil defense officials said more than 4 million people were receiving aid in 430 cities and towns, where about 482,000 houses were damaged or destroyed. More than 300,000 people remain in evacuation camps, with more than 200,000 others sheltering in the homes of relatives or friends.
Malaysia's government was under fire Monday as residents accused it of responding too slowly after the country's worst floods in years. Many were frustrated with the authorities. Let's watch this.
We have two kind of feelings. One, we definitely will have anger because we were not being warned by the governments that the weather will be that serious, and then the flood will be that serious as well. And then we also felt that we can't blame the government as well, because these are beyond control by their side. It's like a natural disaster, so it's like.
I'm disappointed with the politician, with the member of parliament, members of the state government. They don't come during the time of disaster. That they only come 3 days or 4 days after the disaster started.
What difficulty we are finding here is actually, in case we need to refer a case, there's no proper support to bring the patients out from here due to all these road disruptions and everything.
Mounds of rubbish left in the area after the floods have also sparked fear of disease outbreaks. Selangor, which encircles the Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur, was the state hit hardest by the floods. Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob has admitted weaknesses in the flood response, but has pledged improvements in future. Malaysia is hit by floods annually during the monsoon season from November to February, but the ones this month were the worst since 2014. They have left at least 48 people dead and 5 missing across Malaysia.
In other news, COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said they are expecting to release the final list of candidates for the May 2022 polls early next month. He said that January 7 is an estimate when all of these things will be done. Among the pending cases faced by some candidates are for disqualification, cancellation of certificates of candidacy, and declaration as nuisance candidates. Jimenez also said they expect to start printing the official ballot by January 15. Meanwhile, he said they will be using fictitious names of candidates in the mock polls, which will be simultaneously in several areas, which will be simultaneous in several areas in the country, including Metro Manila. This will be done or held on December 29. 3 areas in the National Capital Region where the mock polls will be held are in the cities of Pasay and Taguig and the municipality of Pateros. Mock polls will also be held in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
A group of Filipino Americans in New York staged a lighting rally on Sunday evening to urge American authorities to investigate United States-based supporters of the Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP, and the New People's Army, or NPA, for terrorist financing, recruitment, and other illegal activities. chanting anti-communist slogans and carrying Philippine flags and other banners. Members of the Filipino Americans Against Crime and Terrorism marched along Roosevelt Avenue in Woodside, Queens, where they distributed leaflets denouncing the CPP-NPA and their supporters in the U.S. on the occasion of the terrorist group's 53rd founding anniversary. I quote, U.S. authorities should investigate CPP-NPA leaders, members, and supporters in the U.S. for terrorist financing, recruitment, and other illegal activities, end of quote. PACT is a newly formed Filipino-American grassroots organization based in New York that has been speaking out against the CPP-NPA and its front organizations in the U.S. The group questioned the introduction of a bill in the U.S. Congress entitled the Philippine Human Rights Act, or PHRA, which seeks to suspend U.S. military assistance to the Philippines because of alleged human rights violations. The proposed legislation, according to the facts, would benefit neither the Philippines nor the United States nor the Filipino and American peoples.
With the new year coming up, participants in the New Year countdown in Pattaya are being required to have a negative test result within 72 hours. Let's get the details from Esther Odanga, joining us live from Pattaya, Thailand. Hello, Esther.
Hi there, Alma. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all our viewers. That's right, Alma. One of the most spectacular countdown events outside Bangkok in the New Year's Countdown 2021 festival event in Pattaya, which takes place at the beautiful five-star Amari, Pattaya. But organizers of the New Year's Eve countdown in Pattaya City are now requiring event goers to present a negative COVID test result accompanied by doctor's note and a vaccination certificate. This decision to add more requirements is to ramp up the disease prevention measures of this said event. According to the Deputy Mayor of Pattaya, Mr. Manot Nongyay, the countdown event and celebrations for New Year will bring a large number of tourists in the city, and they prepared measures to screen people who will partake in the countdown event. Now, the event goers must be able to produce their citizen identification cards, wear face masks at all times, have body temperatures that are lower than 37.5 degrees Celsius, and either register their entry via Thai Chana or Thaiwin platform or in writing at the venue entrance. The number of people in the concert area at the countdown venue will be limited to 2,500 people as precaution against the spread of COVID-19. And this information is according to National News Bureau of Thailand. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much for that update. I hope you have a very good, happy new year, but safe. Huh?
Yes, Alma, same to you. And let's wait for the New Year's countdown of the Net 25.
That's true.
And yes, and just before I go, Alma, I would like to greet Sister Vilma Regalado, who's celebrating her birthday today. Happy birthday po, and God bless you always. And also to Tito Manny Garcia, a very happy birthday po. Stay safe and stay healthy. And reporting live from Pattaya, Thailand, this is Esther Odanga, and we live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Vietnam Airlines to reopen regular flights to 15 international destinations from January, and Hanoi to quarantine visitors from Omicron hit countries. Here's Ralph Wandel Pempai for more details. Ralph?
Hi there, Gila. Pleasant afternoon. That's correct. Vietnam Airlines has announced it will resume regular commercial flights to 15 countries, including the US and Europe, from next year. The government has approved for resumption of international flights on 9 routes from January 1 and 6 extra ones from January 26. Vietnam Airlines has announced it will start flying right from those dates. On January 1, it is set to start flying to Bangkok, Beijing, Guangzhou, Phnom Penh, San Francisco or Los Angeles, Seoul, Singapore, Taipei, Tokyo, and Vientiane. It is waiting for approval from aviation authorities to start ticket sales, though. And on January 16, it plans to add Australia, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Russia to its itinerary. Flights would be added on routes connecting Vietnam with Frankfurt, Germany, Hong Kong, Kuala Lumpur, Moscow, Paris, and Sydney. Under guidelines issued by the Health Ministry last week, fully vaccinated people and those who have recovered from COVID-19 will only need to self-isolate for 3 days instead of having to spend a week at centralized quarantine facilities. And all arrivals, except children below 2, must have tested negative for the novel coronavirus using the PCR method within 72 hours before departure. Now, in other news, regardless of the vaccination or recovery status, people who are arriving in Hanoi from countries where the Omicron variant of COVID-19 has been detected have to quarantine, the city government has mandated. The decision issued on Monday by the People's Committee also calls for tight control at Noi Bai Airport and monitoring people who have been to countries and regions with the variant but not arriving from there. Hanoi, currently the nation's coronavirus epicenter, has also instructed laboratories to conduct gene sequencing for detecting the variant while testing. Random testing will be done of people who entered Vietnam in the last 28 days after being to countries with Omicron, those who were infected with COVID after recovery, and those from pandemic hotspots. Earlier this month, Ho Chi Minh City also announced to impose centralized quarantine on people arriving from places where Omicron, the B11529 COVID variant, has been detected. Vietnam currently requires foreign arrivals to enter centralized quarantine for 7 days, but a new guideline effective from January 1 allows fully vaccinated people and those who have recovered from COVID-19 to self-isolate for 3 days and others for 7 days. Back to you, Gila.
Thank you so much, Ralph, for that update, and you stay safe always.
Likewise, Gila. Reporting live from Da Nang, Vietnam, I'm Ralph Pandel Empire. Lead in interesting times.
Meanwhile, the ASEAN foreign ministers released a statement regarding the floods and landslides in the Philippines and Malaysia, stating, quote, ASEAN member states are deeply saddened by the tragic loss of lives, displacement of people, as well as extensive damage to properties caused by the severe floods and landslides as a result of torrential rain in Malaysia and Typhoon Rai that hit the Republic of the Philippines. ASEAN expresses its heartfelt sympathies and condolences to the government and the peoples of Malaysia and the Republic of the Philippines, especially the families affected by these natural disasters. ASEAN reaffirms its solidarity with the government and the people of Malaysia and the Republic of the Philippines, and stands ready to extend its cooperation and support during this difficult time. Gila and I will be back right after this short break.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
masarap talaga kumain kapag may kasama.
Sa akin, spaghetti, tapos sisig, lechon kawali, tapos Bicol Express.
Uy, kalimutan ko yung wallet ko. Tubig po.
Plastic pa ba?
Iplato nyo po para masaya.
Mas masarap. Ewan ko sa kanya.
Tuturuan ko kayo kung paano maglitsong baboy na walang baboy.
Pas ako dyan.
Simulan na natin ang kulay is life. Hulaan nyo kung anong kulay ito.
Time's up. Sarap lang.
Gutom ka pa.
Saka na.
Walang katapusan. Busog pa ako.
Funniest Nakaball videos.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. A Myanmar Junta Court on Monday again postponed giving its verdict in Aung San Suu Kyi's trial for illegally importing and posting.
Sorry.
Suu Kyi, 76, was due to hear the verdict on charges she illegally imported and possessed walkie-talkies, the latest in catalog of judgments in a junta court that could see her jailed for the rest of her life. But the judge adjourned the verdict until January 10, of course, with knowledge of the case told the AFP without giving details. Suu Kyi had faced 3 years in prison if found guilty on the walkie-talkie charges, which stemmed from the early hours of the coup when soldiers and police raided her house and allegedly found her in possession of the contraband equipment. Suu Kyi is also charged with multiple counts of corruption, each of which is punishable by 15 years in jail and violating the Official Secrets Act.
Meanwhile, a handful of Myanmar nurses hiding from the junta have been running makeshift clinics to treat COVID patients and resistance fighters with medicine smuggled past military checkpoints. Take a look.
CDM လောက်တုန်းကဒီလက်ကောမှာရှိတဲ့ CDM တွေစုထားပြီးတော့ဗောနော်ပရာဟိတအတင်ဖွဲ့ထားတာရှိတယ်အမှဝင်လောက်တယ်ဝင်လောက်ရင်လည်းတိုက်ပွဲစခါကျတော့ဒီဖက်မှာဆရာဝန်ရောကျမကြီးဝန်ထမ်းကအားနေတယ်လို့ဒီဖက်ကအဖို့ဖားတွေကပြောတာပေါ့ပြောခါကျတော့ရနိုင်မလားဆရာဝန်ခေါ်လာပေးလို့ရမလားဆိုတော့တိုက်ပွဲစချင်မှာကအရန်ခက်ခဲတယ်ခေါ်လာပေါ့ခက်ခဲခါကျတော့စေအိတ်အရင်ရှာတယ်ရှာပြီးဆရာဝန်ရှာလို့မတွေ့ခါကျတော့ကိုယ်တိုင်တက်လာလိုက်တယ်ဟုတ်
A UN official said Sunday he was horrified by credible reports that at least 35 civilians were killed and their bodies burned in Myanmar and demanded the government launch an investigation. 2 workers for non-profit group Save the Children remain missing after their vehicle was among several that were attacked and burned in the incident in eastern Kaya State. A member of a local PDF group said its fighters had found the vehicles Saturday morning after hearing the military had stopped several vehicles in Crusoe after clashes with its fighters nearby on Friday. I quote, "When we went to check in the area this morning, we found dead bodies burned into trucks. We found 27 dead bodies," he told AFP on condition of anonymity Saturday. Another said, "We found 27 skulls," a witness who did not want to be named and who said there were other dead bodies that could not be counted. Save the Children said later Saturday that 2 of its Myanmar staff had been caught up in the incident and were missing. United Nations Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Martin Griffith, condemned the grievous incident and all attacks against civilians throughout the country.
Staying in Myanmar, a leading actor, singer, and model who was on a junta celebrity wanted list for supporting pro-democracy protests has been jailed for 3 years, according to his legal team on Monday. Paing Takon, 25 years old, a star in both Myanmar and neighboring Thailand, had been active in the mass protests that rocked the country following the February coup. At rallies and through his massive social media following. He was arrested during a dawn raid at his mother's home in Yangon in April, according to his sister, as the junta hunted more than 100 celebrities for supporting the movement. In February, Paing Takon, who had more than 1 million followers on Facebook and Instagram, posted pictures of himself in a white tracksuit with a megaphone, hard hat, and a white fluffy dog strapped to his chest at a protest. "Help us stop crime against humanity," he posted on Instagram. Paing Takon is also famous in Thailand, and he has appeared in TV commercials and shows. In January, he shaved his head and briefly joined the monkhood, posting pictures of himself in burgundy robes. Soon after the coup, the junta published a list of some 120 celebrities wanted for arrest. Several are still on the run. In May, celebrity beauty queen Tar Tet posted a photo on Facebook showing her dressed in black combat fatigues and carrying an assault rifle.
The Ministry of Health confirmed additional 14,872 COVID-19 cases on Monday, raising the national patient tally to 1,666,545. According to VGP News, the same day, the ministry reported 11,374 recoveries, taking the total number of recovered cases to 1,259,614. The ministry also announced further 204 fatalities, bringing the nation's COVID-19 death toll to 31,418, or 1.9% of the national caseload. The nation has administered 146,335,052 COVID-19 vaccine doses, an increase of 725,301 doses from Sunday. Fallout from lockdowns imposed to prevent the spread from spiraling out of control have devastated the economy. Vietnam was among the strongest economies in Asia last year, and one of the few in the world to expand after it kept virus numbers low and businesses largely open. But the latest coronavirus wave, which began in April in its northern industrial parks and rapidly spread south to business hub Ho Chi Minh City, caused serious impact to the economy, the government said at the end of September. Between July and September, GDP shrank 6.17% year-on-year, which state-run news outlet VN Express said was the first time Vietnam had recorded negative quarterly growth since 2000.
Back here in the country, a health official on Monday reported that a fourth case of the Omicron coronavirus variant has been detected in the country. In an online media forum, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire said the case is a 38-year-old traveler from the U.S. Let's listen in.
Our fourth Omicron case is a 38-year-old female from the United States of America. She arrived in Manila on December 10, 2021 via PAL PR 127. She was quarantined upon arrival. On December 13, she had throat itchiness and colds, and a specimen was collected on December 14. When results turned positive on December 15, she was then placed in an isolation facility. She was discharged asymptomatic after a 10-day isolation on December 24. She remains to be asymptomatic as of this time, and she is scheduled to be retested tomorrow. With this situationer, I would like to highlight the following key messages. Nationally, the average cases remains to be lower in the recent week and case classification is still at minimal risk. However, increases in case and positivity rate in the recent week were observed in the National Capital Region and 14 out of its 17 of its areas. These increases have not yet translated to increases in actual and pending admissions in our hospital facilities. The detected Omicron cases remain to be among international arrivals, but its entry is inevitable. We want to further delay its entry to ensure that local health systems are ready. We should minimize the local impact of Omicron by, first, vaccinating as fast as we can. We should prioritize our A2 and A3 to minimize the burden on our healthcare capacity as they have the highest likelihood for hospitalization and deaths. Second, vaccination may lessen the transmission of this disease. Next would be to control case increases through immediate case detection, isolation, and contact tracing. Lowering case numbers means lesser chances for the virus to be transmitted and the chances for it to further mutate.
Stay tuned for more news. We'll be back after this short break.
When we watch together, we can win together. Manood po tayo together sa pinakapanalong New Year Countdown ng Net25. Ang Let's Start 2020 Together sa Net25. Kaya tara na! Hindi lang kayo mag-e-enjoy ng todo-todo. Maraming bonggang sorpresa ang naghihintay sa inyo. At baka maging winner pa kayo. Tutok lang together! Sa December 31 na po ito. Dito lang sa Net25.
Welcome back to the program. Meanwhile, an increase in cases and positivity rate in the past week were observed in the National Capital Region, the Department of Health said on Monday. In an online media forum, Department of Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeren noted that the NCR showed positive growth in the cases in the recent week at 49%. Let's watch this.
In the National Capital Region, the daily cases in the recent week showed an increase of 38 or 49% cases from the previous week, now averaging 115 cases per day. This slight increase in cases was evident in the bar graph where daily reported cases and the lines representing the 7-day moving average was on an upward trend. If we plot the historical positivity rate per region based on patients' address as of December 25, we have observed that the positivity rate across all regions remained to be less than 5%. Note, however, that in the recent week, an increase in positivity rate was observed in the National Capital Region and Region 4A compared to the week prior. The National Capital Region now has a rate of 1.5% versus 0.7% in the previous weeks.
The slight increase in Metro Manila's COVID-19 positivity rate, average daily attack rate or ADAR, and reproduction rate was due to the holiday frenzy and not necessarily because of the Omicron variant, that according to Octa Research Fellow Dr. Guido David on Monday. He also said it's premature to say that the newest variant had something to do with the spike in numbers. Let's listen in.
Tumaas yung reproduction number, nasabi nga natin 0.85. Yung ADAR natin sa NCR ay less than 1 pa rin naman, nasa 0.82. So basta less than 1 yung ADAR, okay pa rin naman siya. At yung positivity rate natin tumaas din, nasa 1.4%. Medyo tumataas ng bahagya. Ngayon, ito, pag ikumpara natin sa nakaraan na holiday season nung 2020, December, nagkaroon din tayo ng holiday uptick. So hindi natin masasabi ngayon na Omicron-driven ito dahil nakita rin naman natin ito last year. Siguro sa mga pagtitipon-tipon ng mga kababayan din natin, kaya kailangan doble pag-iingat lang naman din ang kinakailangan natin sa ngayon. Sa ngayon, hindi pa natin masasabi kung may factor yung Omicron, pero ang sinasabi lang natin ay base sa nakaraan na taon, ay may nakita rin naman tayong holiday uptick.
Based on two-week growth rates or TWGR, David reported that the current reproduction numbers is at 0.85%, while the ADAR in the NCR is at 0.82%. The positivity rate slightly increased to 1.4%.
As many as 325 Russian tourists with vaccine passports arrive at Hamran International Airport in the central province of Kanwa on December 26 and will enjoy a package tour run by tour operator Annex Tour Russia. This will mark the first group of Russian tourists after nearly 2 years of travel disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Following the arrival of the first flight, the tour operator will organize 26 flights from December 26, 2021 to March 23, 2022 to bring from 320 to 340 passengers per flight from Moscow, Russia to Nha Trang, Kanhua. After more than 1 month implementation of the pilot program to receive vaccine passport holders, in the first phase, Kanhua welcomed nearly 3,000 tourists from the Republic of Korea, Japan, and Malaysia. Kanhua tourism has been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic for the second consecutive year. In 2021, the province served about 643,000 visitors, including nearly 23,000 foreigners, posting a year-on-year plunge of 48.55% and 94.81%. Besides Kanhua, Quang Nam, andIen Giang Supok Islands have also begun to receive international tourists coming via the vaccine passport program. Earlier, Vietnam planned to welcome international visitors from November this year. The first phase starts only for those using combo packages, airline ticket, COVID-19 testing fee, food and stay at a hotel for quarantine, with visits to select destinations. The second phase, starting from next year, expects to see more international air routes and more destinations reopen. In the third phase, full reopening will be decided based on the pandemic development and the results of the two previous phases.
And the national government has exceeded its target for the second phase of its simultaneous vaccination drive against COVID-19, with close to 7.5 million Filipinos inoculated against COVID-19 from December 15 to the 23rd, according to Malacanang. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, acting presidential spokesperson, said a total of 7,497,802 doses were administered during the second Bayanihan Bakunahan campaign, exceeding the initial target of 7,326,613 jabs, despite the postponement of vaccination in provinces hit by Typhoon Odette. Citing government data, Nograles said Region 4A or Calabarzon recorded the highest number of cumulative jabs with 1,244,191, followed by Region 3, Central Luzon with 919,822, and Region 6, Western Visayas with 658,805 administered jabs. Nograles renewed his call to those unvaccinated to get their jabs amid the threat of the highly transmissible Omicron variant of COVID-19.
Meanwhile, in another news, the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, or BMA, is planning a fourth booster shot against COVID-19 for members of 3 at-risk groups. Bangkok Governor Aswin Kwanwang said the vaccine rollout is meant for medical personnel, frontline workers, and people living with chronic diseases. The initiative can start once it is approved by the Public Health Ministry's Department of Disease Control. Police General Aswin said the BMA has details for these groups stored in a database, so vaccines can be allocated to service agencies and their distribution can be planned immediately. He said the BMA's vaccination program is being carried out in line with DDC guidelines. According to the DDC, recipients of mixed Sinovac AstraZeneca doses and 2 inactivated vaccines would receive a third shot of AstraZeneca. Recipients of 2 shots of AstraZeneca would get a Pfizer booster shot, while former COVID-19 patients would get the AstraZeneca vaccine as a booster shot.
In other news, optimizing the management of trade facilitation activities advances another step for the Bureau of Customs in achieving full visibility and cross-border cooperation with ASEAN. After months of focused strategies, the Philippines is now exchanging the ASEAN Customs Declaration Document, or ACDD, using the live environment of the ASEAN Single Window, or ASW regional platform, with the intent of supporting customs risk targeting and profiling activities. The ASW regional platform is an environment that connects and integrates the national single windows and SWS of ASEAN member states. It allows the electronic exchange of trade documents such as the Electronic Certificate of Origin, or E-CO, Form D, under the ASEAN Trade in Goods and Agreement, and the ACDD, including the electronic phytosanitary and animal health certificates that are planned to be exchanged soon. Exporters from Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam may join the ACDD exchange by granting prior consent to their exporting customs authorities. A draft Customs Memorandum Order, or CMO, is being finalized by the Bureau of Customs, which will define the operational guidelines such as record keeping and tracking of all ACDD-related messages, including the duties and responsibilities of the customs personnel responsible for monitoring of outbound and inbound messages using the ACDD operations portal. Incentives through risk-based and trade facilitation support are being worked out by the Bureau of Customs for participating exporters. The Bureau of Customs ACDD operations portal, which connects to the ASW system through the country's NSW, the tradenet.gov.ph platform, will be formally launched in January next year.
Asian markets rose on Tuesday following strong gains on Wall Street as investors bet a surge in COVID-19 cases due to the fast-spreading Omicron variant will not derail the economic recovery. The highly mutated strain was fueled a massive increase in cases across the globe, with countries reviving lockdowns, thousands of flights canceled, and cruise ships returning to port with COVID-infected passengers. There is, however, a belief that Omicron is going to be a nuisance but not a dire strait for the global economy, at least not for long, according to Briefing.com analyst Patrick O'Hare. Wall Street enjoyed strong gains, with the S&P 500 powering ahead 1.4% to a second straight record on Monday, while the Dow and Nasdaq added at least 1%. The optimism carried over to Asia, with Tokyo up 1.0% by the break Tuesday. Singapore, Taipei, and Jakarta saw gains, while Seoul edged higher. Sydney and New Zealand were still closed for the holiday break. Shanghai was down 0.1%, while Hong Kong was flat in a seesaw session as Macau casino stocks fell sharply after the gaming enclave reported its first Omicron case. Oil futures rose in Asia, with benchmark WTI trading above $75 and Brent heading towards $79 a barrel.
And finally, in our news, a total of 172,432 passenger arrivals, majority of whom are Filipinos, were recorded during this month. That, according to the Bureau of Immigration, reporting it on Monday. The latest data from the Bureau of Immigration showed that 141,216 Filipinos arrived during the holiday season, many of which are overseas Filipino workers, followed by Americans with 12,455, Canadians with 2,805, and Japanese with 1,645, while the remainder is composed of other nationalities. Commissioner Jaime Morente said most of those who arrived are balikbayans coming home to their families in the Philippines to spend the holidays. This is expected since many of our kababayans who are now living abroad wish to spend the holidays here with their families, he said in a statement. Meanwhile, Bureau of Immigration's Port Operations Division Chief Carlos Capulong said the arrivals this year for December 24 and 25 doubled compared to last year's figures. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you very much, Gila, for keeping me company always here on Asean in Focus.
You're very much welcome, Alma. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. And stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Gila Pablo, and we live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same place, here on ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.